Welcome to 7th grade math. You ready for the lesson? The graph shows students' favorite color or favorite school uniforms. Write the percent of students who chose black as a fraction. 36%. So we put 36 over 100. And if we simplify, we get 9/25. Write the fraction as a decimal. 36% equals 36 over 100 equals 0.36. What do you notice about the percent and decimal form for students who chose black? 36% equals 0.36. They include the same digits. Any percent can be written as a fraction with the percent as a numerator and 100 as the denominator. So in our example above, 36% we rewrote as a fraction, 36 in the numerator, 100 in the denominator, so it's 36 over 100. Use this fact to help write percents as decimals. So if we do 36% and we divide 36 by 100, we get 0.36. Remember, fractions can be division. 36 over 100 is 36 divided by 100. Write percent as a decimal. Write 7% as a decimal. So method 1, we'll write the percent as a fraction. And 7% equals 7 over 100. And then we'll write it as a fraction. Well, 7 over 100 is 0.07. Or we can divide mentally. The percent symbol means to divide by 100. So remove the percent symbol and divide by 100. And then add placeholder 0. So we have 7% equals 7. Remember, there's an implied decimal point after every whole number, so we didn't place it, we're just showing it. And when you divide by 100, move the decimal point 2 places to the left. So 1, 2, and we get 0.07. Then add a leading 0, so we get 0.07. So the math looks like this: 7 divided by 100. 100 won't go into 7. 100 won't go into 70, so we have to annex 2 zeros. So we get 100 into 700. We'll go 7 times. Notice we've lined up the decimal points. And 7 times 100 equals 700. There's no remainder. So the answer is 0.07. Write each percent as a decimal. So 8%, we'll write percent as a fraction. 8% equals 8 over 100. And then if we divide that out, it's 0.08. One of the things you can think about is, so the numerator is a part, and it's 8 parts of the whole, which is 100. And notice it's 0.08, which is hundredths, right? So what else could that could be 8 pennies out of 100 pennies. So we'd get 8 cents, which it would look like that. All right, so that's just for kind of a reference in the real world. So 54%, we'll write the percent as a fraction. 54% equals 54 over 100. And then we'll divide it to get 0.54. Then we have 85.2%, so we'll write that as a fraction. And it's 85.2 over 100. And if we divide that out, we're going to get 0.852. Scaffolding questions. What fraction in simplest form is equivalent to 50%? So we could start with 50 over 100 and then simplify that to 1/2. What fraction in simplest form is equivalent to 25%? So if 50% is 1/2, 25% is 1/4. It's half of the 50%. And 25 will go into 100 4 times. What fraction in simplest form is equivalent to 80%? So we would start with 80 over 100, but that could be simplified, right? And we could simplify that to 8 over 10 if we used a greatest common factor of 10. But 8 over 10 can be simplified even more if we use a GCF of 2. So we end up with 4 over 5. Alaska is the largest state, making up about 16 and 1/10% of the land area of the United States. Write this amount as a decimal. Write 1/10 as 0.1, which is also 1/10. And we get 16 and 1/10% equals 16.1%. Remove the percent symbol and divide by 100. So if we have 16.1, and we divide by 100, we're going to move the decimal 2 places to the left. And then we're going to add the leading zero, which is 0.161. So 16 and 1/10% equals 0.161. Check your progress. About 6 4/5% of the total area of the United States is water. What decimal represents this amount? So we're going to write 4/5 as 0.8, which we learned in the last slide that 0.8 is 4/5. So we have 6 4/5% equals 6.8%. And now we need to convert this to a decimal. So we're going to remove the percent and divide by 100. And that means we'll move the decimal 2 places to the left. And now we'll add a leading zero and we get 0.068. So 6 4/5% equals 0.068. Geography, the total area of Australia is about 38 and 11/20% of the total area of North America. So Australia is 38 and 11/20% of the total area of North America. Write 11/20 as 0.55 because we divided 11 by 20. So we get 38 and 11/20% equals 38.55%. And remove the percent and divide by 100. So we're going to move that decimal 2 places to the left. Then we're going to add a leading zero and we get 0.3855. So 38 and 11/20% equals 0.3855. Any percent can be written as a fraction. 48% equals 48 over 100. Any fraction can be written as a decimal. So we have 48 over 100, and that can be written as 0.48 because we divided 48 by 100. To write a decimal as a percent, multiply by 100, which is the same thing as moving the decimal point 2 places to the right. So now instead of going from percent to decimal, we're going from decimal to percent. So if we have 0.48, it equals 48%. So the math is 0.48 times 100. And if we do the math out, we get 4,800. But we have 2 decimal places that we have to account for. So that gives us 48. Write decimals in percents. Write 0.4 as a percent. So method 1, write the decimal as a fraction. Write the decimal as a fraction. 0.4 equals 4 over tenths. So 0.4 is 4 tenths, and as a fraction, we wrote it as 4 tenths. Or we could do 40 over 100, and then write the fraction as a percent. So we get 40%. And if we multiply mentally, multiply 100 and add the percent symbol, multiply by 100 and add a placeholder 0. So if we get 4 tenths or 0.4 times 100, we're going to move that decimal point 2 places to the right, and then we're going to add the percent sign. So 0.4 equals 40%. When multiplying by 100, move the decimal 2 places to the right, so 0.48 equals 48%. When multiplying by 100, move the decimal 2 places to the right, so 0.25 equals 25%. When multiplying by 100, move the decimal 2 places to the right, so 0.2 equals 20%. When multiplying by 100, move the decimal 2 places to the right, so 0.5 equals 50%. Write each decimal as a percent. So 0.5, 50%. 0.34, 34%. 0.98, 98%. About 0.875 of an iceberg's mass is underwater. What percent of an iceberg's mass is underwater? So let's multiply 0.875 times 100, which means we're going to move the decimal point 2 places to the right, and we'll get 87.5%. 93% of the world's icebergs are found surrounding the Antarctic. Exercise. Each day, Rico and his dog walk 0.625 miles. What percent of a mile do they walk? So we're going to multiply 0.625 times 100, and that means we're going to move the decimal 2 places to the right, so it's 62.5% of a mile. Percent as a decimal. To write a percent as a decimal, divide the percent by 100, which means you're going to move the decimal left 2 spots and remove the percent symbol. So if I have 25% and I divide it by 100, I'm going to move the decimal 2 places to the left, and I end up with 0.25. And then if I'm going to write decimal as a percent, to write a decimal as a percent, multiply the percent by 100 and add the percent symbol. So 0.58, I'm going to multiply that times 100. So I move the decimal 2 places to the right. I get 58%. Write 47.8% as a decimal. So if I divide that by 100, I move the decimal point 2 places to the left, and I get 0.478. Population. According to the Administration on Aging, about 28 1/5% of the population of the United States is 19 years of age or younger. Write 28 1/5 as a decimal. So this is the third problem we've had where fifth is in the denominator. And I want you to think about this. What's 1/5 of 100? Like, what goes into 100 5 times? It's 20, right? So 1/5 is 20. 2/5 is 40. 3/5 is 60. 4/5 is 80. 5/5 is 100. But you'll see fifths a lot, and you may not have made that to your memory yet in terms of fractions, like we do with 1/4, which is 25, right? So that's just something for you to think about. So write 28 1/5 as a decimal. We're going to write 28.2%. And then to write it as a decimal, it's 0.282 because all we did was divide the percent by 100, and that moves the decimal point 2 places to the left. Write 0.33 as a percent, so we're going to multiply by 100, which all that means is we can move that decimal point 2 places to the right. Write the percents as decimals. 50%. So if we divide by 100, we move the decimal point 2 places to the left. So we get 0.5. Drop the 0 from the hundredths place, 0.5. We have 50.2%. We divide by 100. So we move the decimal 2 places to the left, and we get 0.502. 50.25%. Divide by 100, move the decimal 2 places to the left, and we get 0.5025. We have 75%. We're going to divide by 100, move decimal places to the left, decimal 2 places to the left, and we'll get 0.75. 12%, divide by 100, and move the decimal 2 places to the left, so we get 0.12. 12.5%, 12.5%, divide by 100, move decimal 2 places to the left, we get 0.125. 12.55%, divide by 100, move the decimal 2 places to the left, we get 0.1255. 155%, divide by 100, move the decimal 2 places to the left, we get 1.55. 525%, divide by 100, move decimal 2 places to the left, and we get 5.25. 62%, divide by 100, move decimal 2 places to the left, we get 0.62. 62.5%, divide by 100, move decimal 2 places to the left, we get 0.625. 62.56, divide by 100, move decimal 2 places to the left, and we get 0.6256. 162.56%, if we divide by 100, move decimal 2 places to the left, and we get 1.6256. When writing percents as decimals, always divide by 100 and move decimal 2 places to the left. I showed you a lot of repetition there using different numbers so that you would understand it so well you got bored of listening to me say the same thing over and over. Now, hopefully that repetition helped. Relating to everyday concepts. So coins, we have a dime, and if we write that in dollars and cents, we get 0.10. And a fraction of a dollar, it's 10 pennies out of, or 10 cents out of 100 cents or a dollar. And then percent of a dollar is 10%. So what about 11 cents? We have a dime and a penny. Dollars and cents, it's 11 cents, right? 0.11. It's 11 hundredths of a dollar. So if we write that as a fraction, it's 11 hundredths, 11 over 100, 11 cents out of 100 cents. And the percentage of a dollar is 11%. Now we have, looks like a quarter, a dime, and a penny. So we have 36 cents, or 0.36. And fraction of a dollar, that's 36 hundredths of a dollar, right? 36 cents out of 100 cents. So it's 36% of a dollar. And now we have 55 cents. So 55 cents is 55 hundredths of $1. So we have 55 over 100. And that means we have 55% of a dollar. We have a dollar. It's written as a dollar. And the fraction of a dollar is it's 100 over 100, right? It's 100 cents out of a total possibility of 100 cents. So if we simplify that, it's $1. And it's 100% of a dollar. So now we have more than a dollar. We have $1.11. So we have 1 and 11 hundredths. Or we can write that as 111 100ths, or 111 over 1. And if we simplify, we get 1 and 11 hundredths, or 1 and 11 over 100. So it's $1 and then 11 cents out of 100 cents, or 111% of a dollar. Here's your homework tonight. Please go to Google Classroom to submit your homework. I hope you have a great rest of your day. See you in class.